Okay, so we're doing a Frosthaven class tier list by how metal they are. I'm personally blaming, see, we can take a look at Qbert. And this is entirely his fault, and the fact that I like metal a lot. I tried to get, this is like one of the only shirts that was clean. It's very legible, which shows like it's not that metal, because if it's really metal, you just won't be able to read it at all. But the only other shirt I had was Sabaton. Anyway, we're gonna rate them on a scale of, on a sliding scale. I'm making this up as I go. True, spelled with a V. And 2, we have metal. These are just gonna be people that are, they're pretty metal. Then the tier below that, we're gonna have posers. Then you have the false. The false is gonna be on the bottom. That's gonna be the lowest tier. We're only gonna have 4 tiers this time, and the false are just, you know, they're false. That's all there really is to say about it. So let's just jump into it. All right, the Drifter is metal. Not only that, he has 3 horns. Having horns, pretty metal. Having more than 2 horns, pretty metal. I mean, I know they're talking about like, you know, 7 horns, Babylon, shit like that. That gets pretty metal. So the more horns you have, the better. So he's already got that going for him. He's got a big, massive club, which if it was like a big sword, that would be really power metal, which is perceived by the scene to be wimpy, even though it's actually kind of neat, and if they, like, you know, get used to it, they might like it. But anyway, he's got a big beat stick, and he knows, like, he's really showing off that masculinity. This is my attempt at, I don't know, I'm very bad at masculinity. I failed it in the most spectacular way. Ultimately, look, he's standing in the snow. That's probably Norway. They're probably about to record like atmospheric black metal in the middle of, like, you know, the forest out there near Oslo. And you know, that's probably, he's like gonna listen to Insomnium or some shit, and it's gonna be like, yeah, this is tight. You can clearly see he's got that metal vibe. He's a loner, and a lot of like metal people are loners because they don't know how to talk to women. You know, from experience, you can kind of tell the level of charisma they have. Banner Spear is also metal. As you can see, she's also in, actually she's in Sweden. You know, Banner Spear is probably like, you know, she's got the banners and stuff, she's probably more power metal than the Drifter, who's like listening to more harsh vocals. The Drifter was definitely into Amorphis, whereas she's probably into some more like lighter things. She probably does listen to Sabaton because she's a tank, and Sabaton is obsessed with tanks, which I think ultimately that fits. She's standing in the snow. It's probably like, you know, 400 miles north of Stockholm. That sounds like where she is right now. And she's probably like, God, it's so f***ing cold here. They have saunas there. She probably listens to Wintersun too, like, you know, as a treat, as a break from that. You can clearly see though, she's badass, which, you know, metal people try to pretend to be badass, especially on the internet where they're typing away. So like, that's gotta be a big deal for her. So she's got that, plus she's wearing metal. She's probably been to a few shows, I don't know, a few gigs. So we're gonna give that to her. She's pretty metal, but not true, because like, ultimately that's too many colors. If she like toned them down to just black, she might be into the true category. Blinkblade. He's a nope. Blinkblades are false. First off, if you ever see a Blinkblade at a show, no, you don't. They're so short, they can't get there. Also, they're gonna get crushed in the pit. They probably had it, they went to a show once, got crushed in the pit, then had to like move 7 out of there and be like, I didn't enjoy the show at all. It's like, what, why didn't you enjoy the show? Like, it was clearly the pit. He probably listened to like weird shoegaze or something like that, I don't know, like, or like weird, like maybe alt prog rock stuff, and that's like as close as he gets to metal. Maybe he like, there was like some Thank You Scientist was like having some opener for some clearly more intense band, and they're like, oh, I love Thank You Scientist, and he got to the headliner, and then they're like, he wasn't used to like, I don't know, folk metal or Soens, or I don't know how big those pits would be. I'm trying to come up with something that would actually tour with Thank You Scientist. In short, it probably was not a good experience, and now he's just completely left the scene altogether. He's false. Blinkblade's false. Geminus is a poser because he's two-faced. Honestly, that's the big thing. He probably talks a bunch of shit about that, and then like behind the scenes just completely has an entirely different form. He's in the scene, obviously. He is a mass of 1,000 bugs, which people initially thought was like, hey, that's pretty neat, like that's metal. But then when they find out like he has like selfless offerings, and that's just not metal. And he's like basically all, when it comes down to it, he's just a pile of bugs. personality is like even worse than like, you know, your standard dude at a metal show who's like standing in the beer line, but then thinks he can turn around and talk to you and be like, oh, what's your hoodie say? And you're like, it's Wilderun. Like, Wilderun, oh, where's they from? Like, Boston. Like, oh, I don't know many metal bands from Boston. They'd be like, we're at a 7 Spires show. They're from Boston. Like, do you know who's playing right now? And the guy's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And you're just trying to make sure the conversation just ends so you can just get your cider and join your group again. Anyway, the whole point is the Geminus a poser. Bone Shaper, true. I don't even think I need to elaborate, but I will. First off, the Bone Shaper's clearly into death metal. What kind of death metal? Maybe like cattle decapitation. They're probably into like other, you know, stuff like Cryptopsy and other stuff like that. And clearly, like go back to this old school. I'm gonna be honest, I forget a lot of the old school death metal. I don't really listen to a lot of death metal, which I would not put myself in the true tier. I'm probably in the poser tier, to be honest. But like, you know, whatever. I can live with that. You know, maybe she's like into Emperor or something like that. And you know, back to old school black metal. She does use the dark element for a lot of her abilities. So we're gonna say she's probably listened to like, I don't know, maybe Mayhem. I don't condone listening to Mayhem or supporting Mayhem. They're awful people. Varg is truly atrocious. Although the whole story with like the drummer saying he was also on his way to kill Euronymous there's just something humorous about that. But like the band literally has like, you know, murderers in it. So like I don't want to support that because murder is bad. Mayhem's bad. All right, there. I think that's a pretty easy point. Anyway, like her card names, Damned Horde, like Restless, everything on the cards could basically be like a metal song, a metal album, metal. Like it's metal all the way down. Her aesthetic, bones, skulls, and shit. She even like has a metal haircut. Like I'm like, when I saw her, I'm like, I think I saw her at the gig in Detroit. She's so cool. She was nice. She's really great attitude. Bone Shaper's fantastic. So, I mean, despite all like that hard exterior, she actually is pretty easy to get along with. So she's pretty true. Deathwalker, also true. Also, here's, if you look at this up, Eluveitie, which is one of the best folk metal bands out there. They have a song off their 2019 record, Atignatos, probably butchering the pronunciations here, called Deathwalker. So it is quite literally a song. Yeah, it's a metal. She is a metal song. Also, she only uses dark. Her cards are black. She clearly shops at Hot Topic. Like, just look at her. She has that vibe. That was a little gay right there. Because anyway, the point is, she uses dark. She creates shadows. She basically is everything that black metal wishes they were. Like, you know, black metal like really plays a hard game of like, you know, suffer all ye men and stuff like that, but like she literally forces people's shadows to fight their former companions and then like sucks their spirits ushers them into the world beyond. Like her whole aesthetic is everything those badass metal people wish they could be. She's true. So that's the starters. We're gonna get into the locked classes now. So go if you just wanted to hear the starters, or click the buttons to navigate to whatever one you want to see. So, trap, false. Gonna be honest, although brings a lot of metal to the scene, they clearly like love metal. They really only love traps, which means they probably like trap music, which I'm not knocking you. If you like trap music, that's fine. I love that, like that's your thing. But it's not really metal. And that we're rating how metal they are, not like their taste in music overall. So clearly that also gets into a mosh pit, gets stepped on. It's really how it is. There's just completely that. Also probably left some caltrops in the pit, completely ruined the pit. Just the shows are better. Just stay home, Trapper. Like also that hat, if you were to go, like you couldn't see the show with that hat on. Like, come on, if you're going to a gig, like, I don't know, anything but that hat. It's gotta go. I don't know what look you're trying to pull up here. It's Snowflake. So the snow dancer is a poser, literally, because she is a dancer. She probably is like at the edge of the crowd, just doing her own thing, dancing, which is cool. But you're like, she's definitely the one that's over there, and like Unleash the Archers is about to come on. She's kind of dancing to the other music, be like, man, I didn't really like the other people, and you're like, honestly, Firewind's kind of really old anyway. I don't know why they're even still touring, and just, you know, no, their album wasn't even that great. And she's like, well, whatever, I'm just here to vibe, and that's all she's doing is vibing. Yeah, someone probably went over and was like, I said, what's that on your t-shirt, like, name 4 DragonForce songs. Like, I don't know, I just like them. That's probably what this day is. And then she got completely ridiculed, but ultimately she doesn't even like, she probably listened to a lot of like dance music, maybe even like Enya, which is totally lit, but like not very metal. So Snow Dancer is probably a bit of a poser. She's clearly in the scene. She's off on the side though. She's vibing by herself. You shouldn't like go up to her and talk to her if she's off on the side vibing. Just please leave her alone. The Fist. Frozen Fist, he's pretty metal. Do you know why he's metal? Look at how big he is. Did you realize, if you ever gone to a gig, if you've gone to a gig and you try to get merch, you're at the merch booth at the front, and you realize, like, why do you only have mediums and smalls? Because big guys buy it, and that's because they're always drinking at the shows. They're drinking all of it, and then, you know what that goes to your gut. Then you have to get those XL to XX, XXX, and you're like, how did you sell out of XXX hoodies here, my dude? Like, how the crowd is only 40 people. Like, what happened? And the answer is beer. Beer's what happens. Yeah, so the Frozen Fist totally fits in. He probably would get, he needs more than a 3X hoodie, I'm gonna be honest, just looking at him. Like, I've seen some like 3X guys in the crowd. It's really cool when they like move out of the way, because you're like short, and you're like, and they're like, oh look, there's this little girl behind me. I'm like, I'm not that little, I'm like 5'8" almost. And they're like, okay, and they step aside and they're like, oh thank you, I know. You like weasel ahead, but then turns out they're like, they didn't actually have a lot of room because they look big, and they took a big step to the side, but really it only left a little, so now you're like cramped, but at least you're at the front and you're like, oh my god, Roy Khan, you're here. And you're like, just kind of, the whole thing gets over there, but eventually you realize this whole one side is covered in sweat. Anyway, that's probably the Frozen Fist. It would have been cooler though if he was like literally cool. Like if he's got really Frozen Fist ice stuff, it probably would help the air circulation, because it gets like really crowded at the front. Whew. It gets really warm up there. Anemone, or, you know, coral. It's not coral. That symbol's not coral. I don't know why people voted for that to be called coral. That's like, you know, if we voted for trap to be called pear. It's a different thing. Not saying that pears don't exist, but that's clearly a trap and not a pear. This is clearly not coral, it's an anemone. Anyway, oh, it's a poser. So the reason why it's way too colorful, probably like all those lights, making more of a light show. It's clearly you need to bring the Crashing Tide to a rave. It would go fit in well in a rave. Fantastic. Brings all the lights, brings that tide. It's probably got like a good beat, like click, 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 click. That's all it's doing. And it's doing it the whole time. You're like, dude, how much X have you had tonight? And you're like, you need to drink more water. But he creates water tiles. So it's like, he's good. I have not done X, so I'm just throwing this out there. This is not from experience. Please don't infer anything. So really what happens is he's at raves, he's not at shows, but there's like some stuff he's on the fringe of, and he's like pretty big, so he goes to his friends' shows. He's really helpful like that, and he has a tank, so he probably dabbles a little bit in power metal, but ultimately it was like, I'm not really into this, man. That's not a crab sound. I don't know what crabs sound. I'm so sorry. Kelp, seaweed, the Deep Wraith. Pretty metal, uses the dark element, not the band, the dark element, which is fairly poppy, but still kind of classified as metal. I don't even know if I'd put them in. Anyway, they're entertaining though. Dark element's cool. I always love Yanni Liimatainen. He's like one of my favorite guitarists. He's pretty metal though, so the dark element's pretty good for that. Way off topic. So Deep Wraith is probably pretty metal. Like the whole point of this class, by the way, is to just collect skulls. Honestly, Skull Collector, this guy's not metal, he's true. We're bumping him up to true. He literally collects notes, trophy. The card's called Skull Collection. He literally tears his enemies apart and collects their f***ing skulls. That's pretty f***ing metal. That's like Amon Amarth wishes they were as metal as the Deep Wraith. Amon Amarth actually is, they're pretty hit and miss. By hit and miss, I mean, hit and miss. Like, I swear, like, what the happened since Twilight of the Thunder God? Like, that was obviously amazing, but since then they've really lost their touch. I mean, I wasn't even a big fan of like anything on Berserker except a shield wall. It's just been disappointing, that's for sure. Anyway, the whole point is this guy's more metal than most bands, because most bands actually don't collect skulls. They use prop skulls. Like, do you believe it? They actually don't even use real skulls. Moonstar, I'm not gonna ever call this Astral. Whoever came up with the Astral, like, that needs to just, it's outright wrong. I mean, there's, what's Astral? I mean, they're like, who, I'm sorry, I'm more upset about it. Anyway, the Infuser. So the Infuser's metal. I would put it as true, but they're pretty metal. They've got all that stuff going on. First off, this is like your prime power metal girl. Like, I aspire to be her. She literally has an emerald sword. If you go to the power metal subreddit, literally go to r/power metal right now and look at what the upvotes are. They're emerald swords. Look up the song Emerald Sword, listen to it and go, wow, that's fucking majestic. Wow, those drums sound programmed. It's exactly what you're gonna think. And they probably are. But like, Emerald Sword, she literally has a card called Emerald Edge. Come on. I even messaged, like, look at this. I talked to Marcel being like, this is a fun reference here. Like, and he's like, I don't even know what that is. Like, how the do you literally make an Emerald Sword? And not, I mean, I guess it's possible. It's fucking Emerald Sword. So she's gotta be at least pretty metal. She's not true though, because like I said, in the metal scene, power metal, if you've seen like power metal albums, you can read what the words are, which is just not very true. If you can make out what the band name is, it's not very metal. But because she epitomizes all that is power metal, we're gonna at least put her in the metal category. She looks like she'd be fun in a pit. Prism or Diamond. Diamond's the better one. Diamond should have won. Prism, like, who thought of this? Go, oh wow, that's a prism. What the f? It's pretty metal. I would have put it higher. It's literally dudes made out of metal. Dudes made out of a lot of metal robots. But it looks like something a weeb would design, right? This is a Gundam. It's a Gundam. So it's like, this is like Nightcore. He's like listening to Sabaton turned up to like higher BPM and like, it sounds like a girl singing it. Like, no dude, it sounds like a Chipmunk's rendition of a Sabaton song. Like, listen to some real stuff. Like, no, look, check this out. Like, Winter Rider's such a great, like, dude, Everfrost is fine, but like, just try something other than Nightcore, my dude. And you like try to get him to, and he's like, have you listened to Nightwish? That's not Nightcore related, but that's, Nightwish is fine. Like, really, is that like as metal as you get, dude? But turns out in the end, he does listen to only metal stuff. He is pretty metal. He is made out of metal. So you have to give him like credit there, even though he's a little weeby. It might actually not even be a robot. It might be Shinji just stuck in there pretending to be a bunch of robots. And Shinji wasn't very metal. God, that show is depressing. Looks pretty metal. Should be true, but clearly isn't because he's also a weeb. I'm not bashing weebs, I'm also one. I'm also bashing weebs. Drill. So this is pretty metal. I don't think it's true though, because like all the cards are pretty like wonky sounding. He is Iron Man, which is pretty, you know, Ozzy. And Ozzy, you know, he's Iron Man. It's just, that song's okay, I guess. I don't know, it's pretty overrated in my opinion. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really listen to much Black Sabbath, not because I think, like, I understand the influence, so like, we give credit where credit is due. That clearly brought the whole scene, moved it along. Thanks for doing that, but I just don't really ever feel like listening to any of your music. No Ozzy, honestly Ozzy, you're kind of a shit singer. Dio, on the other hand, is pretty fucking great, so we're gonna get Ronnie James Dio. He gets 50 million points. Ronnie James Dio gets a lot. He's fantastic. But like, also weird lyrics. Like, have you even, what the f are he saying in Holy Diver? Have you heard those lyrics? That's nonsense. Like, I've heard some nonsense lyrics of like Luca Turilli's shit. Like, new math resonates in me. I'm like, okay, I think I get that, but like, Holy Diver, don't you see what I mean? Like, jump from the tiger. I mean, no, I don't see what you mean, dude. Like, you're going to have to elaborate because none of this makes sense at all. Meteor. So that one's it's Final Fantasy VII enthusiast. Actually, no. So just look at him. Look at him. That's pretty f***ing metal. No, that's not metal. That's true. That dude's true. Like, he's literally on fire. Like, all of his cards are like preserved, fury, molten stuff. He's like, this dude literally rocks. Get it? But seriously, everything is on fire. Like, that's so much pyrotechnics. Like, even like some of the other bands are like, please, like, slow down with like the amount of pyrotechnics. Like, this is gonna literally set the stage on fire. Like, this guy can't be the opening act. He has to be the headliner because the stage is wrecked after he's done. That's pretty metal. He's true as hell. One of his cards, Wildfire. Wildfire is like one of Sonata Arctica's best songs, and they're pretty metal, but they are pretty power metal, so I have to bring them down just a little bit there. But just look at, you know, he's probably not into clean vocals. Look at that face. Does that face scream clean vocals to you? No, it screams harsh vocals. So it's probably closer to like Blackened Power or stuff like, you know, maybe melodic death metal. Probably listens to like Brymir. Man, I really need to tour the US. I really missed that. Or like, you know, Orbit Culture. This dude's an Orbit Culture guy. Yeah, definitely into Orbit Culture. Like at the front. Man, Nenshin was such a good album. Like, I can't get over how great that was. Meter's true. Shackles is also true. I think I saved all the true guys for last. That's my bad. Shackles is really true. Do you know why? Shackles is basically like looked at Rob Halford's aesthetic and go, that's my guy. And I do find it interesting because Rob Halford's aesthetic is actually just like the kink leather culture, gay culture from, you know, 70s, 80s. Right, 60s, somewhere in the era of just like, you know, even though it's like some of the songs, dude, the songs literally have gay meanings. Like, look up "Eat Me Alive," "Hellbent for Leather." Man, there's a couple other. I can't come up with them off the top of my head, but dude, they have such gay songs. It's so great. So this guy's probably queer. Shackles is definitely queer, which is great. We love that shit. But like, definitely super true because people look at Shackles and go like, that Esther over there, yeah, the dude look fucking vibes. Like at shows, people like don't stay near that dude. It's just unstable. Or do that. I don't know if I have a non-binary term for dude. Like, does anyone know it's like a non-binary for dude? Because like I say that a lot, but I really want to like not gender it. And I know some people will say like, dude's already not gendered. Like, I guarantee if I said something like, dude, I slept with like 10 dudes last week, people would not assume I was talking about 10 different people. I did not sleep with 10 people last week. I haven't slept with anyone in a while. It's kind of getting a bit of a problem. Honestly, like I don't know what dudes want. Like, they're usually not. This is. It's been a while. Anyway, so they've got clearly Judas Priest aesthetic. Judas Priest is f***ing amazing. It's really hard to put, like even old ass Rob Halford, literally went to see him just like in 2021 and it just came out of COVID and we're like, oh, maybe this is not gonna be great. He's old as f***. No, he f***ing kicked ass. Dude's voice is through, I don't know how he keeps that in shape. Anyway, this guy's true as hell because he's clearly gave Rob Halford like, you know, that same aesthetic, which is, it's hard to be more true than that. And last but not least, we have the Shatter Song. The Shatter Song is in fact true. Do you know why? The Shatter Song literally, it's like vibing over here screaming. You literally just gain resonance and scream it out, shattering rock. Literally made entirely out of fucking rock. That's all the Shatter Song is. Like, oh, but it glitters and kind of like looks like that. It glitters. I think most Sabbaths use it pronouns. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know that much about Sabbath culture. Anyway, it like glitters and glows and stuff, so you're like, that's not super metal, but like, I don't know, there's some like rainbow lyrics in Manowar, which I think Manowar considers themselves, they call themselves the kings of metal, which, I mean, debatable, my dude, but like, anyway, like, the whole point is this class is just screaming the whole time. Like, this dude's in the pit, screaming, knocking things down, pushing them aside, but he's also the dude at the edge of the pit that's, like, helping people up, because this class supports. The Shatter Song is a good support class. Seriously, so that's the dude that helps like protect the girls that are on the side, so when they're like over there, because they're clearly on the left side trying to avoid the pit, but the pit keeps getting big because we didn't realize that folk pits were like so big, and then realize, oh no, I'm starting to get knocked over. But then there's this one dude who's like, I'll stand between you, and I'm like, thank you, White Knight, I hope you don't think that we're gonna talk after the show. I'm gonna be honest, please just don't talk to us during the show, after please don't talk to us. Thank you for listening. Anyway, the Shatter Song's pretty true. So here's the list. I don't know how insightful this was, but like, ultimately, It's a list, and I got a little weight. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't take my meds today, so like, this was a little bit more unhinged than anticipated, but I hope that it was entertaining. I don't know how to sign off of this. Thank you for watching.
No, all that shit, you know, it's like...
You don't deny the world hearing your music?
We're living in our own world, you know, we don't want to, you know... end up in jail.